You don't buy interest in it for
No,
that?
no. That's cheap
But
for a
now,
tourist
Jim,
attraction up there.
If you are not going to ride, well, of course, they're going to ride with the little girl.
That's kind of the idea. Get them on a train.
Well, they've got the train, they've got rides. On one level, they got a sky lift up to the top of the mountain, and they got rides and shows and things at the top of the mountain.
And
they
they
got all
got
kinds
the mouse. The
A
mouse.
mouse
whatever.
thing that goes under the mountain.
I know, I love that.
See, a friend of
That
mine,
a lot of times.
a girlfriend of mine in North Wilkesboro had a friend working up there, so we got in free.
Oh.
And I have a friend who's performing in the
I have a
West.
friend.
Oh.
I have a friend who has a
Breaks your
friend.
heart, doesn't it?
How about, does your friendship, could it extend to your
That's
family?
right. Family.
I don't know, because see, we went with her. We took her along.
Oh, I see.
Now, I tell you, once you've been to a few other places, that's really not too bad. I think one can spend money about anywhere he goes these days.
Oh, I can sit at home and just spend
I can too, but I do it.
When I tell you what, one of my favorite places to go is Stone Mountain. They got Widow Creek Falls, and you slide down the rocks. Of course, about 14 minutes.
You mean like in
They got
Georgia?
another place we jump off the
Georgia?
rocks. Kids go in the water. We
Stone
move our
Mountain,
asses
Georgia?
floated in the
No,
water.
Stone Mountain.
Cool.
North Carolina? Oh, okay.
You snake.
I don't know about that.
entertainment. Freezing cold water. It's good.
Oh, but it's so nice out there, and the
Is it
deer.
cold this time
We
of
got
year?
deer. It's a
William,
park.
did
Yes,
Kenneth go through here?
I don't go anywhere there might be ticks. I am
Oh,
afraid of
You
well,
better leave.
better
here.
not even come to my house then. I got ticks, flies, snakes. I live in the country.
ticks and roaches. Where do you live, Jude? Do you know
A couple miles down the road.
Do you know how Kenneth is?
I teach at the school. That's right up here.
Kenneth!
Just a couple. 20 minutes.
You teach at the Kleeman School?
I know. I teach at Roaring River here and Seabiana down yonder. I used to teach at Ronda Cleveland, but I don't anymore.
Joey's got to get up first thing in the morning. Y'all work close to that. He's going to want to get up.
Boone's not that far. I was in Boone yesterday.
How far is Boone from here? An hour.
You know how fast you go now?
Or how much traffic you're behind, right? That's right.
I ain't behind the wrong. I got federal over 54,000 yesterday.
Finding your way over here.
I was like Daddy.
No, I've been here before.
I've never been down to see
I did stop at a service station and the girl told me how to get here, but
Well, that's great.
what she told
I
me
didn't know
wasn't
that. Why your
right.
mama was
So I went to
not.
this Methodist church on the other side of 421, and I knew that wasn't it. I did anyway, and then I came over here. But I thought maybe she knew a shortcut.
That was real nice.
That's how
David said he couldn't remember things on the road.
Well, it's pretty easy to find.
Sue, isn't that how I got you to let me come back the third time and brought Daddy?
Brought Daddy. I couldn't wait for Daddy.
No, I bet you
We've been doing
that
fine down
was
there,
real
Jude.
nice.
It is. It is. And see, I don't have to take the kids everywhere. I got an ex-husband takes them with my hands. Have you seen, I went to see, what's his face's new movie? Tom Cruise.
If you're doing, if that man over there, what is he doing? I'm not looking.
You turn that thing.
I'm his granddaughter.
You're getting old, aren't you?
We've got 14
64
grandchildren.
last week.
I'm 76.
I have to write mine down and then
We've got 14 grandchildren, another on the way.
I have to write mine down. Because what, I have to write mine down. How many do I have? I have 7 children. I had 7 children. They're all married. Hopefully every one of them has 1 or 2 children. And I have and look to see how many.
Do you do the driving?
Yeah.
And then, Paul's gonna go to work and comes to me.
Some weeks I'll drive 1,000 miles. I drive 1,000 miles some
Well,
weeks.
that's true. I don't have children at home. Laura's and Ross.
Do the best you can.
They live near you.
It
in
is,
Southern
yeah, we'll see,
Town.
we'll see what happens.
Jim is in Southern Town.
You can.
Laura is in Ross.
I know that there's one of them that knows well. I mean,
Boone. Well, Laura was until they transferred her. And she wouldn't go.
James, I know
She
pistol
wouldn't
fit.
go
Get out from.
for the longest time. They tried to get them Ross for years. And she had said, oh, well, I've got children in school and I'm not going to take them out of school. But they found out her youngest was a junior in college. So they transferred her anyhow.
I used to go out every week, every summer, sometimes the home.
Well, that's
I call that my vacation.
right. Yeah, Pat.
They keep young, you keep going to school.
Well, amen. Nice to see you.
Come see me. Daddy, glad you got down to Albury. I stay well.
I ought to know you, but I'm not sure now. Which,
I'm Martha, I'm David's oldest.
David's Oaks, okay, all right. Glad to see you.
Nice to see you,
You know,
Joe.
Aunt Elizabeth filled me in on everybody, who everybody was.
You got all down in that Pat,
I
man.
think so.
You did.
That's my husband right there.
It is.
That's right.
You need
Get out of your way.
Take care of everything.
Always doing shots. You never know when you might need them.
She helped me a whole lot. I'm still not.
Huh? But seeing you, I tell you, I'm such a man.
For all my brothers and sisters' children. They've been on this.
She's pointing out her granddaughter.
Not many girls on that
Mom
side.
pointing out her granddaughter to me. Oh, whose is this one? That's her little girl. Is it?
Very nice.
I can't see.
It's my little girl. It's Christy. It's Christy. You know Christy.
Of course I know, but I couldn't
All right.
tell who she was across the table. It's awful hard. Where's those are?
I don't know. Good question.
Well, I hope you've had a good birthday, sweetie. I love you. Thank you. Well, I just don't get anywhere anymore.
You were going to speak.
I don't know if anybody I've driven to Wilkesboro back.
Did you speak to Grandma? For Grandma?
I know.
She's been out there in the barn.
Yes, I've spoken to her since she's been sitting there.
Almost Joey.
Can't do anything.
There she was.
Sit there. Who does she look like? She don't look like the family.
I
Walking.
think she's going
You
Joey's
keep
side.
walking.
Don't you?
Looks like funny to see a Garrett
Says
that
she's
like
having trouble
that.
getting you to walk anymore. He's gonna be there not to let you fall. And you keep trying to walk, sweetie.
You can turn the camera off when I'm ready to go to bed.
I've been praying God for you.
I know. How well I know.
Everything for me, a man to do.
Sure he does. And he has for years.
And he had come in his home. I was having company today. And he let them come down here.
And 3 flies just puttered around here on me.
Bye, we'll get ready to
Well, the doors keep going back and forth. Well, I shall see you.
Your grandma about to?
I'm gonna try to. It may be fall time before I do, but I'm gonna come over and stay here.
His aunt.
I promised your girl that I
They've been
would.
out there running and playing.
I'll let you know in time to change the sheets.
Careful now.
And I don't care whether you do that or not.
For the weekend.
All spring.
Yeah, Mom, here. No, we haven't. We should have a lot. That's what we're doing right now.
Take that. You're on camera with that.
The only reason why we tell them to stop.
What happened to my pocket?
No, I got our foot on. This is further, 2 hours more for the road.
She's doing it waiting up there.
I want to come tell you goodbye. We're gonna have to go. Yeah, it's a long way. Jennifer, this is my girl.
She said, happy birthday to you. To get my children so we know that there is a Kenneth and Neal. Oh, you're and this is my boy Joey Jr. This is Joey Jr. He wanted to come and say goodbye and happy birthday to you. Oh, Kenneth, thank you. Here's June's boy. We enjoyed your party. We enjoyed your party.
I say
Will you?
enjoy that.
Get over here in the picture, please. Slide it a little bit.
Wait.
Hey, shh.
They sing my mind.
Get that again, get you
But I can't. And I hear the noise.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, all
Hey,
this
will you?
noise.
Go over
I
here.
don't understand anything. I imagine you know,
Well,
you know,
y'all shouldn't
know
play in front
Well, you've done real well to make it
Go in here and speak to
101.
Grandma Neal.
I'm just glad we got to come up and see you.
It's Frank again. Yeah, I'm always here.
Well, we don't come to North Wilson.
No, I just
hardly
trying
ever.
to see who it is and the weather. Unless the light shine on it right, I don't know anybody.
I'm right. I'm okay. I'm the same person I've always been, even when the light's not shining on me.
If what?
Even when the light's not shining on me, I'm the same person.
I can't see him in the dark.
You know I am now. Okay.
Hey, Kenneth.
Hey,
That's good. That was good. We will come see you. We're coming back in September to Eden. And we'll try to get down toward the end of September. I'm sorry. Well, if we come to that, we couldn't have come to this, and we didn't even know about this. It just, with Joey's work, we have to just do it when he can get off. We went to see his grandmother, you know, so we kind of done a little bit of both today. Been on the road.
William wanted to speak to you.
Oh, well, William, I'm glad to see you. You have
Oh,
some
William,
things.
smile.
You'll
Give
soon
her
be
a
big
smile.
enough to
Good.
fish. You'll soon be big enough to take me fishing.
What kind of is that?
I expect you'd love to fish, huh?
Okay,
I should
now I
have
got
brought my
you.
camera in here.
You may get you too, Joey?
Let me go get, I want to go get my camera unless you're going to get copies.
I usually don't make doubles of
Don't.
everything. This
I
is
make
a store
doubles of
open day.
everything. Well, let me go get my
No,
camera.
I got 2 rolls.
Ooh, you gotta get my camera and then you can
Ms. Neal, tell me about when it was. Tell me about the first roads you remember.
She says she takes them on. I always
The
get
first
copies.
road, the first car you remember.
First car,
Yeah.
Model T Ford.
No, I don't mean the first one you had. I mean the first one you remember ever seeing.
If you think there's a negative, you're all gonna be crazy about it. Put it in an envelope.
I think it belonged to Miss Fay Pascal in Reedsville, about 18 and, about 1909.
Well, I'm glad we got to come and
Yeah.
And there wasn't but 2 in the town of Reedsville at that time.
Where did,
This is Joey.
She took me to ride. Miss Fay took me to ride,
Sue's husband.
and one of her, some of her little boy drove the car.
Remember?
And I think he was her nephew. Some of her folks, anyway, she was an orphan herself and lived with her
I'm doing
uncle.
fine.
And his
You
little
take
boy
care of
drove the
yourself.
car. And we went to ride,
boy,
and we
Joe,
thought it was
Junior.
something.
I bet you did.
There wasn't but one more in the town of Reedsville at that time.
Where did you ride it?
Huh?
Where did you drive to? There weren't any highways,
Just
were there?
somewhere out in the country.
On a horse and buggy road?
That's all
Hey,
right.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I think at that time we had what they call macadamized roads
Let's go this way.
with the gravel
Mama,
on
we're gonna have to
so
go.
that
Sure did
maybe
enjoy
from
having you.
Reedsville
Just
to
didn't stay long.
Wentworth, from Wentworth to Yansford.
Yeah.
Not Yansford, but
Plan it for the
Bixby.
year.
Yeah.
When we're coming,
And the rest of the roads
back
were
in
dirt.
September when the roads
Good.
are coming.
And that macadamized road until they boiled the gravel into the ground was mighty hard on tires.
You didn't get it stuck, did you?
Oh no, but I have been stuck and I've been turned over. Stuck in the mud and turned over and had to get out and walk home.
Good golly.
And
Joey, if we can help her out.
I was about 2 or 3 miles from my daddy's, and the car turned over on the side. It didn't turn, only just to the side. And we couldn't get out of the mud. And a neighbor near where we turned over come in and hug it and took my mother home. Mama was old, saw the people too. And the rest of us had to walk home in the night.
Goodness.
Dark and muddy. And the next morning, they went down there and turned the car back on its wheels, and the tank was almost full of gasoline and had leaked a drop.
Goodness.
We
Lucky.
were there on the side all night.
When do you first remember her?
Huh?
When do you first remember your big sister there?
Well, I remember her all my life. She's older than me.
How much older?
I had another one older than Annie.
Yeah.
Landis Mitchell's mother.
How old were you when you first met Annie?
When I first knew Annie,
Oh, yeah, when first time you remember her.
I don't know. Always, I reckon.
She was just always there.
I reckon.
Annie, when was the first time you remember seeing Amy?
Frank wants to know Frank wants to know how old you were when you first remember me.
I do. Frank.
Frank Carter. He's Martha, David's Martha's husband. This is Martha, Neal's husband. Frank Carter.
Oh, well, I thought I knew been somebody I never had seen.
Well, yeah, here he is.
He's been here before.
Yeah, I've been up here one time before. When's the first time you remember her?
What age were you when you first can remember me? Like 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah. What did y'all do together when you were growing up?
We didn't do much together. I had an older sister, and they stuck together, and I was the odd one.
Oh.
And the one next to me was a little brother that died, and then the next one next to me was 3 or 4 years younger. So
Where do you live?
I live in Yanceyville. Yeah. So you didn't ever play with your little sister here?
Yeah.
You did. Well,
Not too much.
You're supposed to.
I said, she stuck to the older one. She and Mary.
Yeah.
I tell him that you and Mary stuck together. I was the odd one.
I'm going I have to tell you, Josie, that Rick's to go through the
And this is James. This is Martha's little girl, David's granddaughter. And this is her little girl's daddy, Frank Carter.
I bet you never seen anybody that old before, have you? She's never met anybody over 100 before. She's 101 years old. Goodness. 101.
July 13th.
Her birthday's July 15th.
Huh?
Christy's birthday's July 15th.
15.
Yeah, they have almost the same birthday.
Some other family has the same birthday as Annie, but I can't remember who it is.
Yeah. You know, little Franklin's birthday's the 15th also. In July.
I don't see correlation with nothing new.
They probably have.
You just go to Yankee, go to Yankee, and you don't come to see your old grandma and your grandma and your granddaddy. Yes, she's David's granddaughter. This is David's granddaughter, Martha's little girl. Amy Boo is Elizabeth's granddaughter. Elizabeth's daughter, I mean. And she's, Amy Lou didn't come. No, she didn't come. She's not here.
Write that, please.
Carrie, have you ever met somebody that's 101 years old?
What?
I was talking to little Carrie there. That's my little youngest baby.
Is this your bag?
Mama, we got to go.
What you heard?
Well, it's getting kind of late. We got a long way to go. You gonna come up here? You gonna stay up here a few days?
Stay up here, the man's gonna stay out here, she's going back down.
She's gonna stay out here. Let me get out of the way while he takes her.
Where you going?
That's just part of the reason I'm doing it.
Now, I won't be up here this week. Yeah, but I will next week.
Well, we'll see you.
Bye, Annie. I'll see you. This has been, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Well, we'll see you again.
It sure was nice. We'll see you later. Bye. Yeah, we got to go.
I miss more time at work than I miss all my life.
Take care.
Sure have enjoyed it. I hope you've had a nice day. It certainly was nice. Yeah, I'm still not all right yet, but I'm hoping it's better. I still feel it, but it's better. My hip popped out, joint is what happened. But that happened. That's your little calf.
Did you know it, or is that what you're
That's what the doctor told me.
Did you know that's what caused you pain?
Yeah.
I didn't know what you knew, it was a doctor.
What the doctor told me.
Well, I
But
said,
I didn't know it till then.
that's what I wondered. Well, I hope you get all right.
Well,
Get
thank
right
you.
back in place.
Yeah. I'll see you. Enjoy.
I can't tell who anybody is and where I'm from at all.
I'm glad I came to this because I was headed out.
Why don't you sit right here where you can talk to her? Live right over here. She can't hear you.
Been in the yard the whole time.
Come on, sit a little closer now so she can hear you talk.
Undergrowth.
Let me help you out here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. I missed it here.
You know, I can't tell who anybody is. Across the room,
Frets you, doesn't it?
aggravates you.
It frets me. I'm going to use that to put this on.
I got this
We
here
keep
too.
cats all the time to stay outside. This one's hard to
Boy, I tell you.
But it's grown out. They're not lying. I'm scared to get cut again.
We'll see you, Mama. No, I'll be up next week.
All right, drop in when you do.
Thank you.
Bye, Annie.
So nice.
I told you about him. I just passed
I'm
by.
not sure where he is. to
No,
tell
but
you.
I'll be next
He
week.
might be in the car. Wait just
Plan
one
to come
second. I'm
next
going to say
week.
goodbye to
I
Grandma.
miss you.
Well,
Ah,
I came last week, but I was coming up yesterday, and I was in a
I'm just
rush to
telling
get
you
back
why.
home and do things, so I didn't come up. But I'll be
Well,
back
I'll
a couple
try
of weeks.
to. I'm going to have to do it soon.
enjoy
The school's
seeing
going to
you.
start.
Well, I enjoy it myself.
come down for
We'll
your
see
little
you.
boy to go fishing
Bye.
again.
I'll
Frank,
try
we'll
to
see
do
you.
that.
He had a
So
good
long.
time. When
He had a wonderful time.
Well,
He and Lane.
I was thinking that he was the one.
He was. But what we need to do is come down and fish late in the afternoon.
Well, it's been too hot to go
I know.
fishing unless you went by light time and
I
stayed a
know.
little while and then come back and go again.
I
Look how
know.
hot I am.
I know. I am too.
It's cool in here. Go
Bye.
outside for a while.
Bye. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen.
Yeah,
I enjoyed your party.
yeah. I'm glad you could come.
Thank you. I hope you all have a nice few days.
Thank you.
Bye, Grandma.
There.
And
I got to find out.
I think you are
Think they're going to stay or not.
out here.
I know she wants to.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I took care of that.
Did you take
Yeah,
care?
all
Thank you.
taken care of.
Annie, are you through with
How'd you take care of it?
I just made sure. Told them we don't have it no other way.
What did you tell them?
That man
I'm
right there.
gonna take it and clean it
Coming
off
through
the
there.
table if you're through.
Who is the
Yes.
man?
I don't know.
I can't see his
Landis.
back.
Landis.
Huh?
Landis.
Landis.
Yeah. Took care of that. Hey, how you doing? I was just having a conversation with these ladies here. You wouldn't believe what they remember. But, yeah, they don't miss too many tricks.
Landis? I know the man used to march around. He used to stay with us a whole lot when we were boys. He couldn't stand the flies. He said he just loved the country if it wasn't for the flies. And at that time we had a dare and just offered to keep them down because the cows were just across the road. He'd walk around with the fly swatter. Said he would love the country if it wasn't for the flies.
I wonder where Oz is.
Huh?
Oz, I wonder where he is.
I haven't seen him the last little bit. Do you need him? Do you need him for anything?
Well, he helped me from his shadow.
Where did you do that? I'd like to. Please do.
Getting kind of hot. You getting hot? Y'all look like you're sweating right much.
I'm just burning up.
It is kind of warm. It's cooler in here than it is in some parts of this house, so it's right hot out there in the front. I see that fan's not turning, and it needs to be turned so it'll come over here this way. Let me go turn it over around a little bit. Get it blowing in there. Maybe that'll help some.
That's enough.
Get a little bit cooler in here. That help some?
Yeah, I got a whip of it.
A little better.
Maybe.
I hadn't been getting it at all. I got a good whip then.
I ought to get up. There might be somebody else.
What?
I said, I reckon I ought to get up from the table. There might be somebody. I don't know where I am.
I think most of them have been coming in here.
Yeah.
That better?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now it's getting there.
Oh, it was
What's
all
this
right.
roll?
It was all
Nobody
right.
wants this, do they?
Bye, Annie.
Any more garbage in here?
Goodbye.
Who is this?
This is Garrett.
Oh, you leaving now?
Yep. Got to go.
You promised to come down and spend the night and we'd go fishing as soon as I'm home.
Then
Yes, you did. 2-3 weeks ago.
I'll have to be careful what kind of promises I make.
Sound like a politician.
Sound like that's bad as Frank.
I'm gonna call you someday and remind you of it.
All right.
Sound
Go
like
out
some
and
kind
find some worms.
All right, I'll bring you some worms.
sound like some kind of politician. Then
Yeah.
they promise and stuff and don't even remember.
Thank you. We enjoyed it.
I sure did.
See you next year.
When we gonna look for you?
I don't know, Mom.
Who?
Is everybody gone?
No, they ain't gone. They're just milling around.
Huh?
They're just milling around. They hadn't gone anywhere yet.
Some of them are leaving.
Yeah, a few.
I think Ben was leaving.
But not me. I'm hanging around.
Now, who is that?
That's Frank.
It's Frank Carter, Martha Neal's husband. Ben's Martha's.
Yeah.
David's Martha.
It is David instead of Ben.
You better remember who they are. Woo. Goodness.
They've got 2 little girls. There's lots more boys in the family than there is girls, so they're real proud of 2 little girls.
Yeah, it's about time we have a few girls there, isn't it? Ooh.
We have lots of little boys. Little girls, so yeah.
You never did tell me about Amy Lou.
Well, she didn't come. You'd have to ask Elizabeth about it. Elizabeth's here.
She hadn't been here lately except for spoken.
She sat down there.
Yeah. I couldn't tell.
No.
Sitting there.
I couldn't tell you because the sun light shining on.
gonna do this week?
But I don't know. If she doesn't step me out, I think she's gonna stay out here.
When was this house built?
Did you say?
Said, when was this house built?
You have to ask somebody else. I have no
Had to ask
idea.
somebody older than you too, I expect.
It must be.
We never have been able to find out who built it.
Have you all been up home? Huh?
Yeah.
It used to
Look,
be
I
on.
wrote a story about it.
That's right, you
Yeah.
took old
Oh,
factory.
my husband died. He was trying to find out, but he never had been able to find out who built it and how old it was.
Well,
And we haven't seen anybody living that knows.
I was gonna say, it was a good house. It was a good house, or it would have been standing here all these years.
Yeah.
I've thought about it a lot of times. The man that built this, everything about this house is done by hand. Everything. Up there where they cut the stairway.
Glad you talked to her, because she listened to us and yours.
You can tell that he cut it in little pieces so it would bend. And I said that whoever built this house must have been awful proud of it when they finished.
Yeah.
This room always reminded me of Aunt Benny's dining room. You know, she had a cupboard in the corner, in the wall.
How many years did you live here? How many years have you lived here?
She just comes here in the summertime.
Yeah.
Well,
How many years have y'all
I've been
been
coming here about 49 years.
49.
Yeah.
Well, that's almost half your life.
I haven't spent a summer in North Wilkesboro. This is the first summer that I've been in
And
North Wilkesboro.
William, you're sure a nice host.
Well, what'd y'all do up here? What'd you do for a living? Just farm and stuff?
My husband was a lawyer.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Farm, raise wheat, farm.
Raise chickens.
They had some chickens.
That's what everybody
one
else
time.
does up in this part of the country. There's some chickens up here.
They had chickens
Well,
once.
I had it as a man. I don't know how many chickens I has. Now, last time, I think he sold them. The last time I asked him, he had 165.
My wife is Amy's grandmother.
The man that lives down there.
Amy's my wife's grandmother. That's why. That's who I am. I figured it'd be nice to have a few conversations on tape. You know.
Oh, this is.
Ooh, it's hot, ain't it, Annie?
Well, we got the fan on her here.
Don't that
Cooling her
fan
down.
feel good?
Truck a second to jump the car off.
Your car won't
It's
do.
got a dead battery. It did it this morning, and I brought the jumper cables with me.
What's wrong with your battery lately?
Well, your children.
They're laying. Go
What
on.
is this?
What do you want?
Hey, Sneak, can I just pull your truck up right over here?
Yeah, the keys
I know
ready.
what to do.
Is this Johnny?
No,
Billy.
Billy.
Billy, I meant. I just get names mixed up. The boy is what I'm thinking about. But
Really, where are your children?
Oh, they're
Outside in the dirt.
playing.
Playing in the dirt.
They're outside playing.
well,
Getting
they-
sweaty and nasty.
They're not nasty, because it's not
Clean
dirty.
nasty.
The dirt
I'm
is
going
not
to.
nasty.
It's clean.
I'm getting ready to take them
If
home.
you had some cattle
Put 'em in
and
that
chickens
room,
and things like
nobody
that
will
on it, you might
Well,
say
they're
that.
having such a good time, they can't go to sleep. They're doing all right.
Well,
Well, go jump it off with my
Okay.
car.
What a shame.
Oh, Lord.
I haven't seen the children today, though, to know it.
Well, they've had such a good time with their
But there's so
friends.
many of them, it's hard for me to distinguish which ones.
did you see them?
Huh?
Did you see the children?
I guess I have, but there's so many children here, I can't keep them separated.
See, Norma Smoke brought her little grandchild, and Garrett and John just had a ball.
Did the children say the children had a good time?
Who'd Garrett have a good time with?
My best friend's little boy, her grandchild, Norma's got a grandchild, John. John's 5 and Garrett's 5, and he's a lot taller than Garrett.
Well, I said I'm glad.
So they had a good time playing together. It took them 1 hour to warm up to each other. And we thought, well, they're not gonna get along. And Norma says, you've got an antisocial grandchild. Because John's so outgoing, and finally they warmed up to each other and they played.
I had 2 little girls, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how come, that's my kids. Mine don't warm up fast, but once they do, you can't get them stopped. They just keep on going. Whew. Yeah.
Addison's not here today.
How come y'all didn't raise chickens up here? It seems like to me this whole place doesn't do anything but raise chickens. Everywhere all the way up here is chicken houses, one after the other. I guess when you're a lawyer, you don't have time to mess with those things too much.
They had some one time. I don't know what the.
Well, they're great if you make money, and sometimes you can lose your fortune.
Yeah.
If they get sick or something happens, you can really get in trouble.
Well, I was talking to a guy from down in eastern part of the state, and he said that they raise about 180,000 hens every year.
You got to know what you're doing.
I tell you, if you lose that many, you know or something.
You have to know what you're doing.
180,000
Somebody
chickens.
that's never had an experience like Bill would know how to go about it right.
Yeah.
When Gary was a boy, when he was in high school, he had maybe 300-400, and we thought he had a whole lot of chickens.
He did.
And since then, I've forgotten where I met somebody up here, had them for the 1,000.
Yeah.
And it looked like that Gary didn't have any.
Well, where does Frank Perdue buy his chickens from? Does he get them from North Wilkesboro too, like the Holly Farms people?
I don't think so.
They're Yankee chickens,
That's
aren't
Purdue
they?
chickens.
Aren't
They're
they?
competition, aren't
Yeah, aren't they Yankee chickens from
That's
up in
Bill,
New
he'll
Jersey or
know.
somewhere like that?
Purdue chickens, where they come from, Bill?
What, Purdue?
Uh-huh.
Some of them in this county.
I didn't
Are
know
they
that.
really? I didn't
They're
know.
processing plant in Dobson.
Uh-huh. But I mean,
It's just about,
Holly Farms doesn't buy everybody's chickens that's in Wilkes
No.
County.
well, they don't buy them all in Wilkes County. Purdue has some growers in Wilkes County.
I just wondered, because, I was watching all the commercials and things, and I just had a feeling that there couldn't be too much difference between chickens that are grown close by one another. I mean, they just because they're a little different color.
Who was being visited up here?
The
about
only
the
difference in the chickens at Purdue feeds as marigold petals.
That's what they say.
To make them look yellow on instead of fat, they look yellow.
Always look
See?
full.
All right. Now I don't know. I haven't verified this, but they tell me that Holly Farms does the same thing for the chickens they sell up north.
Oh.
The gluten oil will make the skin look yellow.
It's a funny thing for me to ask you, but Ben goes around visiting chicken houses, comes up here about every 2 weeks somewhere, all up in here. I wonder who he works for.
I don't know.
I said, the funny thing for me to ask you, isn't it?
I have no idea.
He comes to see Annie.
See, Holly Farms, they don't really like me. I represent the insurance carrier for years, and they have a lot of differences with the insurance company. They've now gone self-insured, so they don't have to fool with the insurance company. But they don't particularly think I'm a great fellow.
But I don't know a
And that's
thing,
all right.
thing in this world about what Ben's business is, but he comes up in here about every 2 weeks.
He doesn't come up
Now,
here.
he comes seeing Annie about every time he comes
Well,
up here.
I say he comes up in here, I don't know
Yeah.
where it is, but
Doesn't he still work with the Central
he
Carolina
comes by to
Farmers?
see Annie.
He comes to Clingman, also Bill, and then he comes from Clingman up here, he told me one time, just to see me.
I know it,
He didn't have to go far. That's
but he
right over
comes,
the hill.
I don't know how many places he visits, but I do know he comes somewhere near you and he comes to see you every time he comes. It's about every 2 weeks.
He didn't come last
He comes
No.
see you about every 2 weeks too.
He
doesn't he?
comes by to see me either coming or going.
Yeah.
Last time he come in the morning. Most of the time he comes in the afternoon and eats supper.
Well,
Now I don't know who I'm looking at.
that's Martha.
Martha, can you just a dark spot, that's all.
Your vision's starting to fade out on you.
I see your white brows, but I don't, and your dark hair, and I see sort of a face.
That's all I see sometimes too. Sort of a face. When she's sleeping.
Do you ever come up our way? I never see you.
Not much.
She will more now that she's teaching. It's a video camera. A video camera. I've been taking pictures of you. Yeah. Newfangled stuff. Remember your first
I
camera?
guess it'll be a show to see them.
Well, it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good to watch. Remember your first camera?
Yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
I don't know whether I do or not.
I bet you made, is it
I don't know.
Brownie? No, what was that Kodak camera called? That box camera that everybody had?
It's been a long
What was
time
it
ago.
called? It had a name for it though. Can't remember the
It was
name.
before your day, I bet.
Oh, it's way
the
before
first one I
mine.
had.
Way before my day. But I was trying to think of the name of that camera.
Martha, you still going to school?
Yes, ma'am, but not this summer. I'll start back in September.
Martha's teaching like you used to teach. She's going to be over in Rockingham County teaching.
You working now?
Not this week. I finished at the library a week ago, and I'm going to work for the Rockingham County Schools at the senior high school at Wentworth.
At Wentworth. Well, now, will you just have that one school?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that'll be nicer than going from here yonder on.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it.
What you gonna do with the little girls?
Wait a minute.
They'll be in
This is-
school.
I know one of
Is
them
this
will.
Gary?
Oh, both of them will.
Well, oh, this is my boy, Amy.
Hello here. I haven't seen you in about a year. How you doing? Why, you're getting to be a great big boy. You'll be going to
Are you
school
going
first thing you
home now?
know.
Well, I'll see you. Come to see me up home. I'll be up home sometime. You're sweet.
Your little hand is just cold.
He's a sweet boy.
I bet.
He's playing. He's just as wet as sweat.
Just, his little hands are like cold and wet.
They've been playing in water.
I don't say it because they are Billy's children. I never have seen lots of children all the time. I've never have seen them act ugly.
I saw the dog.
Yeah. Because she told me he said go home.
I haven't seen her today. Is she here?
She's not here. Told me she's working.
Well, I thought I hadn't seen her.
She works at the hospital today.
That dog wants to
The weekends, they have such a time written here, but I read, somebody read in the paper the other day, they paid them $29 an hour to work weekends.
What do they do?
Huh?
What kind of work do they do?
Well, she's some kind of technician. Reads, well, what do you do to your taper?
X-ray?
X-ray. She's an X-ray technician.
Well, I haven't seen them this year. I think I saw them last year. I think she was here last year. Just I look forward to seeing her little boy and Alice's little boy together, but Alice didn't come today. She and her Elon roommates were having a reunion. And so she didn't get here today. But I
I didn't pay her to work. She ate it over bad enough.
May I have a Coke? Would you give me a Coke?
now is a little girl here.
Sprite. Sprite.
I don't know how she didn't come in. But she's,
I think we're getting seconds now. We just said.
seemed to love me so much. You see, he just reached up and hugged me. No, William, no, Billy was such a sweet child, you remember.
I never did know William too well. William never did stay with us much, but you know, William, Landis would stay there a month at a time. Landis had asthma, at least, and he'd stay.
I'm talking about
the older children, and you were talking about the grandchildren.
I'm talking about Billy's children.
I see, you're talking about the grandchildren.
Yeah.
The grandchildren are so far from me, you know, I don't see them, except when I come here.
I don't know them. I don't know your children now. Well, I know Ben since he's been coming up there so much. And I'm always so glad to see him.
I think he comes to see you almost every 2 weeks for a little bit.
I appreciate it because I know.
Sweet thing.
I was just looking to see what it is propped on.
On the picture frame. You'll be able to watch yourself on TV when we get home.
What?
You'll be able to see yourself on television when we get home.
Is that right?
That's what I'm doing. Movie.
Well, will it be on my TV?
I can put it on your TV, yeah.
All right, put Annie on it.
Thank you.
You've got to go back and get somebody else over there. Maybe Daddy can do it. Oh, she's got it.
Y'all want something to drink?
I don't.
That is awesome.
We're about ready to go. Drink that now. Look at my hair. Every time a fan goes by, it gets it.
Anybody in the living room now?
I think if they're still here, they're out around the house, outdoors. I see people passing the windows. Some of them standing out on the sunshine talking.
I can see it very well. But to me, it's just beautiful like that.
It is beautiful like that, but it's beautifully hot too.
You got a picture of Christy carrying.
No, I haven't. Been kind of horned out of there.
Go over there and stay between Grandma and
I just couldn't see it.
Put your
But
coat
of course, I didn't do anything.
Go stand beside him.
A few things, but
Give him a hug.
I've been doing that.
Go give him a hug,
Put your drink
baby.
down here.
It's the first time I have had a thing to do with it. Well,
Carrie Ann, put your drink down so you can give Aunt Annie a hug. There you go.
I wish you did live ready to come to see me real often. Johnson is the only great grandchild I have to come in like a storm for a little bit.
He is a storm.
Yeah. But I do love for him to come. I get real lonesome.
He screams too much.
But
He screams too much.
That's Christy's right there.
he don't do that for me, though. He don't have
That's
that
what I
scream
said.
at me, folks.
I'm really tired like that.
He comes in and gets him some
I
scratch.
see it. That's Christy.
Have you ever been in my scratch bowl?
Yes, you have. The corn checks and the wheat checks and the nuts.
And pecan nuts.
what are they doing out there in the yard?
Carrie, you know that, right?
Walking around.
There's a whole lot of men walking around out there. I don't know what they're doing.
Just messing around.
Looks like they would try to be in the shade. It looks like they try to be in the shade with broad and hot sun.
It's not near as hot down there as it is uptown. We haven't got all that concrete. And since they built that church out there, when you look out my bedroom window, you can't see a thing but that church. And it's made it so hot.
That's the reason I said with the brick church and that concrete road all around you there,
like putting you in a stove.
The concrete parking lot.
Yes.
And then there's
Daddy, didn't Carrie say she was mommy's last
the
night?
joint
Yeah, she's mine
mine.
today.
I know it, and they come up out there the other day. They wasn't asking me, but they were telling me they were gonna hire assessors. And they were telling me how they were gonna turn the water off. If they didn't fix somewhere, they were just gonna all that water off that parking lot down there on me.
Mommy.
And then, of course,
I don't think so.
well, I'm surrounded by concrete.
Said I would
Well, that's the reason I said, I want to come stay some with you, you'd be in the country, but I just didn't feel like I could stay in town, it's so hot.
Well, we have air conditioning in the house.
I know it, but I'm not a stay in the house dying all the time.
That's the truth. Stay in no house. I bet today you will.
If I told,
What have you been doing in all this heat? Anyway.
well, I've got a big fan and it's right there in my room, and in the afternoon, if I get out in the shade, I don't get in the sunshine. But I worked 29 hours for a lot last week. I had that rental boy wears glasses. He's the best on the hip. I think a whole lot of them. And he worked for me several days. I stayed out when I could stay in the shade. I stayed out where he worked most of the time. Can't think of his name.
Mommy,
Daniel?
hold this glass ladder.
No, it's not.
Hold the
Joseph?
glass ladder.
Well, afterwards, I got the church over there and all that.
Just ladder for the chair. You're gonna get close. Rusty,
Something sort of like Duke.
stop threatening me.
Oh, I don't know him. Buck?
It's not his name, it's a nickname. But I just think it's one of the relatives. I don't know any of them names.
I'm gonna get a chair.
What time's it gonna be?
Sit up, sir.
3:30.
That'll be it, man.
I believe I'll sit right here as long as I can.
Well,
Have to move a little, all these.
I moved out to a different shed, helped a little. And he put that fan on me and that helped a whole lot.
Well, I'm not hot. Very comfortable. Just sitting so long.
Well, who do you get to help you out? Who helps Annie back to her chair? She says she get.
Oh, Margie is, I'll help you. Where you wanna go, in here?
There's all of them.
Where's your walker? We go get your walker.
It's over here. Is that it? Behind the chair? Excuse me.
You can't help me.
Let me get Arthur. Arthur, can you help her back in there? She wants to go back in there. Charlie said. What are y'all gonna do with it now?
I mean, it's getting a little hard.
But
They want me calling, I'm Fred Pascal with him and give him a show.
oh no.
Back going?
Has Pat gone? If he has,
Extreme time, but I don't even run the fire down now except extreme time. Watch out, the cameras are out.
I'm doing the food right now. Look at all that. It hasn't even opened up yet.
Yeah.
Well, I waited for work. Oh, there, I thought I'd videotape some food.
Oh, good.
I mean, after all, it is the only thing that's really moving here. Everybody else is standing still. What's the only thing moving? The food.
couple of months. We're gonna come get you Wednesday. Steve and I are gonna come get you Wednesday.
Wednesday? She's gonna be home. What is Wednesday?
Just one day.
I know, but is there any special occasion?
Well, no special occasion. I just thought we'd ride back my short sugar to get some lunch and go to the house and do a little fishing. And I promise you I'd come and get you when he was ready. About 11 o'clock. Okay. Do I need to call you Tuesday night and remind you?
You might.
Okay, I will.
You know, I'm not quite a week. I'm off the way. All right.
He's never been. Oh, Sam had been? He's never been. What? What I said, yes. I always get a chance to wish him happy birthday. And I'll remember it, and when it comes to the reunion, I'll always remember it. But I didn't get to, he was in and out. I didn't have time to speak to him.
I think he had some other things that they were planning on doing. But he said she was going to serve.
Alrighty.
What you ready for?
Well, let's talk about when you were a little child growing up. Where were you born, and talk about a little bit about your life when you were a child.
I was born in Rockingham County in the Matrimony community.
Where is that?
It's about 7 miles the other side of Leaksville, right on the Virginia line, Henry County, Virginia line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the first thing you remember about your house and about your family?
Well, I reckon one of the first things I remember, we got water from a spring.
You had to go get the water?
Huh?
You had to go get the water?
Had to go get the water, and I loved to go with the cook to the spring, and we had one little spot between the house and the spring, about halfway, a little sandy spot, and it was level, and that's where we set our buckets down and rest. And Sarah Jane was a colored woman, lived with us for years, and I loved her about as good as I did my mama.
Tell me about your mom and daddy.
Well, it was just like other folks. We lived on a farm, and farm manufactured tobacco in Stoneville for the first years that I can remember. And then he sold out and come home, farmed, I reckon the rest of his life. He handled leaf tobacco right much of the time.
So did you make cigarettes?
Huh?
Did they make cigarettes?
No, he sold it to, he would buy on the warehouse floor and put the old tobacco factory there in the yard at home till he had an opportunity to sell it to the manufacturers in Martin for Virginia.
So he didn't actually make any cigarettes, he just
No,
bought
he
it?
didn't. He just bought the leaf
Uh-huh.
and sold it to the ones that did make the cigarettes.
Okay, now you were born in 1889, is that right?
Well, I'll be 100 years old the 3rd of November.
So your birth date is the
3rd of November.
what year?
I don't remember.
1889.
Huh?
1889.
1889. Yes, because it's 100 years.
Yeah. Okay, now how about the house you lived in?
What?
How about the house you lived in? When was it built?
It was built, let me see. I'll be 100 in November, and I had 2 sisters 4 years older. Now, what would that be?
Well, let's see. They were born in 1884 or 1885.
I was born in 89.
Uh-huh. And the house was there.
The house was there then.
Yeah,
It was
you
built, I think, before Mary was born. She was the oldest.
Okay.
And
How
I lived, though, most of my life in the house that my daddy was born and raised in.
Same house.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The first I lived in was one he built and lived right near his daddy. And after they were gone, of course he owned the plantation and we moved in Grandpa's house.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had Mary, Annie, Lita, Florence, Ivy, Jessie. I had 6 sisters and 1 brother to live to be grown.
How about all together? How many did you have?
Mama had 9 children, but she lost 2 of them when they were children, little folks.
What happened to them?
Well, one had brain fever, I think they said, the baby. I don't remember him. But my little sister, I remember, had whooping cough and took pneumonia.
How old was she when she died?
6 years.
And your brother was how old when he died?
My brother that lived to be grown was 44, if I remember correctly.
And the other one was?
The other one was an infant, about 7 months.
Okay, do you have any sisters and brothers, or you have any sisters left now?
No, my last one died this year at 100, almost 102.
Okay, so now how about your other sisters? How old were your other sisters when they died?
Well, I had one that lived to be 97, and the others died younger. One died when she was 19, and the others were still younger than that.
Younger than 19?
I had a little sister died, had whooping cough and pneumonia, and died when she was 6.
Yeah. And didn't you have one that died when she was 88?
Let's see, how old was one? Yes, Annie was 100 and nearly, almost 102. And Mary was 98. And then the others were younger. But I believe Florence reached 90. And Ivy was in her 70s. I had 6 sisters.
Yeah.
I believe it was 6. I don't know whether it was 6 or whether I was a 6th one.
Who are the oldest people you remember when you were a child?
My grandparents, Grandpa and Grandma Garrett, were up in, I think they were late 70s, and my Grandpa Jones was up in 80.
And you were just a little girl when they died?
I was grown when Grandpa Jones, I was married when Grandpa Jones died.
Where did he live?
He lived in Henry County, Virginia, about 3 miles from Ridgeway.
So most of your families lived right around that area?
How's that?
Most of your family lived
My
right around?
My grandparents did. I lived in the house, was born and raised in the house where Grandpa Garrett lived, and Grandpa Jones lived about a mile from us on Henry. He lived in Henry County, Virginia.
Tell me a little bit about life back when you were a little girl.
Well, I don't remember too much about it. I know that we could have a cook and have servants that we couldn't have later. And
Why couldn't you have them later?
because the times changed and they got other work and public work maybe. And we couldn't have a cook after I was a great big girl.
What about your?
The colored folks went to West Virginia, and the poor white people, cotton mills opened up at Spray, and all the tenant white people moved to Spray. So it was real hard for anybody to have any kind of a tenant or servant for several years.
What did you do for fun when you were a little girl? I know you had a lot of sisters around the house. What did you do with them? What was your relationship like with your sisters?
Well, the two older ones went together, so they paid me very little attention. I was the third one, and the one next to me died, so I was sort of alone, except younger sisters and a brother.
Mm-hmm. Did you have to look after them?
Well, I don't think we did much looking after. We could have help in those days. We'd had a colored person nearly always.
Yeah.
But they sort of, I loved to play and build frog houses in the sand, and we I got water from a spring and had to carry it a good little distance. And when down near the spring there was a big maple tree that had a nice sand bar under it, and the washwoman would wash the clothes, had the tubs fastened in the rails of a fence, and when the washwoman would be there, I would play under that maple tree and build frog houses in the sand.
What's a frog house?
Put your foot barefoot in the sand and pile it up on your foot, wet, and then you could pull your foot out and just be standing.
Yeah. So that's where the frogs live. Huh?
That's a frog house.
Golly. How did people get around when you were a little girl?
How's that?
How did people get around when you were a little girl?
Walked. A whole lot. Rode horseback. And of course we could go in buggies, but my sisters rode horseback to school 3 miles, one behind the other one on a horse.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Did you have a horse of your own?
Had a horse always we could ride or drive.
Did you ride side saddle?
Yes.
All the women did?
Everybody did then. But after I was older and after I lived here, they rode astride, but I never did. Mm-hmm. In fact, I never did ride horseback after I moved to Caswell. We had a real gentle horse that I could drive, and I went in the buggy. I used to ride horseback to Hilly, and roads were bad where I was raised, and we rode horseback a lot. My sisters rode horseback to school, one behind the other, on a horse.
How old were you when you started school?
I was 9 years old.
Why so late?
The others went to school. The two older ones went to school and rode horseback, and it was too far to walk. And then we had a public school near us that I could have gone to if I'd had anybody to go on with me, but they went to school in Virginia, and this public school was in North Carolina. And my sister next to me was 4 years younger, so I had nobody to go with me.
Mm-hmm. Did you take your younger sister when you went to school?
Yes, she went to school with me. And I was 9 years old before I went to school.
How long did you stay in school?
I stayed at school till I was 18, I reckon.
Yeah.
And we had private school, had just a teacher for us. And then I went to Reedsville Seminary in Reedsville. I didn't go there but 1 year. But we had a teacher that taught all of us in our home, and sometimes she'd have some of the neighbor children. But not often was anybody but us.
What was school like?
But
what was school like? What did you do at school?
Well, I don't remember anything but our books, our studying, and we were by ourselves so much, you know, in the private school. That way you don't have other children like you do if you can go to a public school or go to one we have to hire a teacher.
When you went to the Reedsville Seminary, did you stay there?
Yes,
Where did you live?
Mr. Robert Montgomery's.
Who's that?
Robert Montgomery's, I roomed there. And I ate at the seminary with the other. They had a dining hall there, and I ate in that building.
Why do they call it a seminary?
I don't know.
That's where preachers learn to preach, isn't it?
Well, I don't know, but this was called Regional Seminary.
Yeah. What year did you graduate from there?
1909.
And what year did you get married?
I rang it 1913.
You got married in 1913? Okay. So you've been out of school for a little while when you got married. What did you do between the time you got through with school and when you...
Well, I taught 2 years.
Where'd you teach?
Huh?
Where did you teach?
A little country school out from Mayodan called the Jameson School.
What grades were
Just
there?
one, had one through the 6.
A lot of.
One teacher, school, and about 26 children.
What ages were the children there?
Oh, I had 6th grade. They were from 6 years old through the 6th grade, and I don't remember just how old they were.
When you were when you were working in Mayodan as a teacher.
I was working in the country.
Yeah. How'd you get back and forth to work?
I voted not too far from the school and walked from my voting house to the schoolhouse.
Did you ever go back to Matrimony Creek much back in those days?
Well, Matrimony Creek went through my daddy's plantation, and as children, we fished a lot. There was a mill pond backed up on my daddy's land, and we had a real good place. Somebody stocked it with government fish, and we had a good place to fish.
You like fishing?
I love it yet.
Why you like fishing?
Well, the outdoors is one thing, and I don't know, there's just something interesting about it, especially if they'll bite.
You ever go and catch a whole lot of fish?
I caught, I believe I caught 9 one day last week, 9 brim.
Who'd you go fishing with last week?
Who did I go with? One of Ben's daughters, Benji, Benji Neal.
She's back from California?
She went back from here, but she wasn't in the earthquake
Oh, that's good.
community.
What do you remember about the first highways and roads and stuff around?
Well, the first roads were the people that lived in the community would have a certain day, I think they called it paying their road tax. They'd get together and work a certain stretch of road. And we didn't have very good roads in those days.
How about the cars? I mean, what did people ride on?
What
did people ride on? Mostly buggies?
And buggies and horseback.
So the road didn't have to be too good now, did it?
No. My sisters went to school. 2 of them rode the same horse. One rode behind the other one. And that kept me out of school for a long time because I had nobody to go with me. And I would have had to go. They didn't go to country school. They went to Virginia, went to Bridgebury High School.
Tell me a little bit about, let's go back again and talk about your grandparents. When you were a little girl, did they live nearby?
Grandpa Garrett lived in sight. We lived in sight of Grandpa Garrett. We could holler and talk to each other. And Grandpa Jones lived in Virginia, Henry County, and about 1.5 miles from home.
Did either one of those guys ever fight in a war?
Yes, Grandpa Jones went through the whole 4 years as a soldier. And Grandpa Garrett was a home guard. He never did go to battle. But Grandpa Jones did, but he never was wounded. He had a brother killed in the Civil War.
Did he ever talk about the war very
Yes,
much?
he'd talk about it and cry
Would he?
after he was an old man.
What did he think of it?
But it's a sad time. He had lots of slaves too, and of course it ruined him because when the war was over, the slaves were freed, and things couldn't go on like it did when they belonged to him. Of course, I reckon some of them lived there and worked there as long as they lived.
What year was he born? Do you know?
I don't remember if I ever knew, but he lived to be up in 80, and
Well, let's figure it out. How old were you when he died?
I can't remember, but I was married and living down here when he died.
So he was born.
He was an old man. He was. I don't think he had reached 90, but he was way up in 80.
Is that his picture up there with the old beard?
No, that's one of them. That's my Grandpa Garrett.
Uh-huh.
And Grandpa Jones is the one that I remember. He was younger than Grandpa Garrett. I remember both of them, but I remember Grandpa Jones more.
Yeah.
I love Grandpa Jones the best, I think, because he made more of me. And Grandpa Mary, Sister Mary, was Grandpa Garrett's favorite. She was his oldest grandchild, and I reckon he gave her music lessons, piano music lessons for years. Never did do it for the rest of us.
Did he play well?
But
Did he play well?
no, he didn't play, but he loved music, and he would want her to come and play for him.
So he taught her how to play, or he
He paid for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought if he taught her how to play, that's...
No, he didn't play, but he paid her teacher.
What about your grandmothers? What do you remember about them?
Well, I didn't have but one grandmother, and she was I don't know, a real friend of mine, and my step-grandmother was too. But I remember them both well and loved to go to see them and loved to stay with them. I stayed with Grandma Garrett, slept there after my grandfather died until she died. We didn't live very far from, and I'd go there after supper and spend the night. I was about 14 years old, I think.
What did you get for news? How did you get the news where you lived?
Took the Atlanta Constitution, came once a week. That was when I first can remember. It come once a week, and I don't know if it didn't finally come 3 times a week, but I know it came twice later. But that was our newspaper, Atlanta Constitution.
How about the local papers? Were there any local?
Didn't have any. Not when I first can remember. I think the first local paper we had was Madison Herald.
So when something happened, you didn't find out about it right away.
No.
What do you think of television?
Well, I love it.
Yeah?
I don't watch it much, but I love it.
Did you watch any of the earthquake stuff the other night?
No, I haven't watched it a bit.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about turning it on. David will come in. David eats supper here every night. He'll come in and turn it on. But I seldom ever turn it on.
What do you think, well, let's talk about when you were, about the time you got married.
What?
When did you get married now? 1913?
1913.
Okay. And your husband's name?
Robert E. Neal,
How old were you when you got married?
24.
And he was?
He was 28.
So y'all got a farm? Is that what y'all did?
Yes, we had a little farm back over where this one is. We kept it for a good many years. He sold it to Dr. Simpson.
When
We sold it and moved to Rockingham County up back of Lowe's Church, but didn't live there for 2 years before Mr. Neal died, Robert Lee's father. and he bought the home site, and we come back to, sold up in Rockingham and come back here.
This is the home of Robert Lee Neal's father.
Where he was born, I reckon.
When was this house built?
Nobody knows when the big room was built. Robert Lee said his father didn't know, it's so old. But Robert Lee's father built this part, and what we didn't build, but I don't know what year.
What'd y'all do to make a living?
Well, my daddy handled leaf tobacco and manufactured tobacco when I first can remember. And we raised tobacco, grew tobacco.
Mm-hmm. You remember working in tobacco when you were a little girl? Do you remember working in tobacco when you were a little girl?
No, Pa wouldn't let us. I worked more in a flower garden than I ever did anything else in the dirt.
After you got married, did you have to work in the tobacco?
No, I never did work in tobacco.
Well, who did?
Whoever lived on a place, whoever grew it.
Sharecroppers?
And our children worked in tobacco. Garrett and Alden and Robert, David and Ben, all of them worked in tobacco.
How much tobacco did you have when y'all first got married?
I don't remember.
Yeah. When you first got
But that
married?
was our living.
Yeah.
Our money, I mean, supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. When y'all first got married, did you get a lot of wedding gifts?
I expect so, but I don't remember. I didn't have a real wedding.
You didn't?
I married at home, but we didn't have a whole lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a quiet family wedding.
Yeah.
I had one cousin, boy that I don't know all my life, Will Mitchell, and one or two girls. Outside of my family, that's all I had.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was wondering about, did y'all have a car when you got married?
I don't think there's such thing.
Well, there were cars in 1913. Y'all didn't have any out here.
We didn't have any idea. I think it don't look to me like that we had a car until 22. It might have been a little earlier than that.
What kind of car was it?
Ford.
Brand new?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Where'd you buy it?
Robert Lee's sister Lizzie bought it. She was here and was going to teach school up at where Alexander is buried, if you know where that is, between Enbeth and Reedsville. And at Thanksgiving, after school opened, she had a stroke. And Robert Lee bought her car. She had bought it to drive from here to Thompsonville to school. And when she died, he bought it, and it was a Ford. I didn't know what model, but it was in 1922, I think.
What kind of roads did you have to drive on then?
Well, they were fairly just good. Seems to me like they were graveled, keep from being muddy.
Mm-hmm. Was he a lifelong Caswell County person?
He was born right here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was born when my daddy was born.
Did you know any of his family?
No, I went to Reedsville Seminary School and met his sister Lizzie, and that's when I met him. He'd come to see Lizzie.
Uh-huh. What'd you think first time you saw him?
I don't remember.
You don't remember the first time you saw him?
I remember the first time I saw him because he come to, we were going to school to Reedsville Seminary, and Bowden, there was voters in the school there, and he was coming, was going to take Lizzie to a moving picture show, and wanted me to go with him. Of course, he'd never met me till then, but Lizzie was my roommate, and the teacher wouldn't let me go.
Why not?
I don't know, but she wouldn't let me go.
What movie was it?
I don't remember. Uh-huh.
I can't imagine a teacher not letting you go to the movie.
She wouldn't.
When did y'all date? Did you court a lot?
I never had seen him before.
Yeah. How about after that? How many times did you see him after that before you got married?
I think I come home with her to spend Easter holiday, and after that year, and I reckon that was about 1911, and we married in 1913.
It took 2 years for him to finally ask you to marry him, huh?
Well, I didn't know him very well. You see, it was 35 miles with the horse and buggy. It was a right good distance then. That was full car days.
Yeah. Well, did he make a lot of effort to come see you?
He must have, I don't know. He had to drive a horse. It took all day to drive from here up there. He lived here. And it took all day to drive 7 miles other side of Leaksville.
I reckon it did.
To Leaksville then.
What'd your family think of him?
I don't know. They didn't say much about him.
They just said he was all right, huh?
Pa would have been mighty particular to find out if he thought he was serious.
You had children. Your first one was born in what year? 1914?
Uh-huh.
And you have 7.
7, 6 of them living.
Okay.
Algernon was 70 when he died.
Were they all born here?
No, we lived in the Pines, between here and Reedsville, the back of Lowe's Church, a few years, and which one was born up there? Garrett, I reckon Robert was born in the Pines, and the rest of them were born before we went there. We lived down the back of, had a little farm down the back of this place, and lived there first several years.
They were born at the house?
Uh-huh. All of them born home.
Doctor come to the house?
Uh-huh.
Who was the doctor?
Dr. Malloy was the doctor when we lived here, and I can't think of the man in Reedsville. I've forgotten. Right now, I can't think of it. He's dead. It wasn't Marco. It's funny I can't. McGehee. Dr. McGehee.
Yeah. And he delivered your babies up there.
And Dr. Malloy, yeah.
How long did it usually take for the doctor to get out here when you knew you was having a baby?
I expect, how long would it take you to drive a horse 15 miles?
About half a day. About half a day, I guess.
Well, that's how long it took. Had to come from Reedsville or Yanceville one. There's not much difference in the distance between them. Yeah, Yanceville and here in Reedsville.
The times when your children were little, did you stay home with them most of the time, or did you go out and work any?
I never did work.
Yeah.
I taught school a while for a while. I worked all my life, but
worked at living, huh?
Just everyday work. It wasn't any dollars and cents in it.
Yeah. How much was what was considered a good year's income when y'all were first married? How much? I mean, what a good year? How much would you make in a year?
Frank, I wouldn't have any idea.
Forgot that one, huh?
I've forgotten.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fortune, but we lived.
Yeah. Did y'all have any help here?
Oh yes, we had colored help then. All you wanted, and you could have them have a cook and have somebody to clean up your house and all those things. Real cheap. Maybe just hand them out. A colored woman come help you half a day, and you just give them something to eat. Just very little.
Were people pretty poor around here?
Yes.
Were y'all considered pretty rich?
I reckon we were considered independent. I reckon we were certainly not rich.
Who were some of you?
Except we had good health.
Yeah. Who were some of the people that you remember when you first moved here? You joined the church here, right?
I remember Mr. and Ms. Joe Ware lived up the road here.
just one of the finest old couples you ever could meet. And an old lady, we said Cousin Lelia Williamson, but I don't know how much cousin she was. Lived down below here. They had a big, fine old home, and one of the grandsons tore it down, thought he was going to rebuild. Something happened to him, and it never did. The site's still there. And we had real nice, good neighbors.
What'd y'all do to help each other out? You work on each other's farms or help build barns and all that kind of stuff? Or
Well, we just farmed.
yeah. How about church?
We went to Bethesda Presbyterian Church.
When did you join that church?
At 1914, married in 13, and joined Bethesda. Right soon after I married, my family, the Neal family was already members there.
They'd been members a long
Except
time.
Robert Lee's mother was a member. She was dead, and she was a member of Trinity. And his stepmother was a member at Locust Hill.
All those churches been around for a long time then, hadn't they?
But Mrs. Robert Lee's stepmother told me, I was sort of a Methodist. Robert Lee's stepmother told me if I joined Locust Hill, my father-in-law wouldn't have any use for me.
So you didn't have much choice, did you?
And Robert Lee was a member of Bethesda, and I joined Bethesda.
When y'all were just starting out, did you go sell your tobacco, or did you have the help sell it for you or take it to the market? How'd you get it done?
Robert Lee took it to market himself.
You didn't
Went
go?
to Danville mostly.
Did you ever go?
Did I ever go?
Uh-huh.
No, I never have been on the market.
Always stayed back
I always
home?
thought I would go sometime just to see and hear, but I never did do it.
You've never seen a tobacco sale?
No.
In your life?
No.
I don't believe that.
The children, some of the children, Lily and Elizabeth went just to see it when they were little.
You never have in your life been to a tobacco auction?
No, never in my life. My daddy grew it. Some. He never did grow tobacco like Robert Lee did.
How many acres did y'all have when you were here?
Oh, we could manage it, but I don't remember how many it was. See, now you just have a certain allowance, but then you could have all you could plant and manage.
You have you didn't have a tractor when y'all were here, did you?
I don't think there's such a thing.
Did you have a lot of animals on the farm here?
Well, we had a few head of cattle, and of course we had pigs, raised a hog, maybe 2-3 hogs a year. Oftentimes had a beef a year. We didn't have any electricity, didn't have any cold storage for beef then, so we couldn't have it like we could later. And we put it in a freezer and keep it.
What'd you do about ice?
But
Where'd you get ice from?
have to get ice from, an iceman would come along in a truck. In late years, I don't remember first year, but after we moved here, iceman would come along with a load of ice, and we'd buy it and put it in the cellar and wrap it up. And we just bought ice once a week, and we kept the milk sitting on the ice in the cellar, and then we'd break off pieces to make iced tea. And usually we'd have ice cream once a week. That's when the iceman would come and we'd get all we wanted, and we'd buy enough to make ice cream.
How much was the ice? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. It wasn't
Where'd the iceman get the ice?
I think he come from Reedsville.
Yeah. So they had refrigerators somewhere to make ice.
I don't know, but we didn't have any refrigerator. We'd put a great big block of ice in the cellar and wrap it up, and maybe with a quilt, and wrap it up good and close with cloth that would keep a week. We'd have enough to keep the milk cold and have iced tea. And at first, when they first brought it, we'd have ice cream about once a week.
Did y'all have a big family all at one time here? I mean, did everybody live here when you were after your family was born? I mean, were they all children at the same time?
They were all children at the same time, but Garrett, Algernon, and Elizabeth were born in the first place we lived. And Robert was born in the Pines. That's between here and Reedsville.
So did they work on the farm?
Yes, they worked on the farm as children.
When did you think they were old enough to start?
Well, I reckon they come in when they were just little folks doing certain little things. And they went to public school, start the school when they were 6 years old.
What was the school like? Where was it here?
It was down here at Trinity Church, and 2 teachers.
They didn't have far to go then, did they?
No, it didn't have far to go.
What about the what did they learn? I mean, what did they basically learn to do? Just read and write?
I think they were supposed to go sixth grade, through 6th grade, but it's been so long I have forgotten. But my oldest son didn't go to college. He went, but didn't stay but 6 weeks. He was homesick. He raised chickens when he was a boy, and he had a whole lot of hens. And when he went to college, he left his chickens, and he wasn't happy. He come home. I don't think he stayed but 6 weeks in Raleigh State College. And then Algernon, Elizabeth and Elijah, and Ben all graduated from college 4 years, but David just took a business course. I don't know how long he went.
How about Algernon? He went to college 4 years?
Yes.
Where did he go to school?
He went to Appalachia.
So what made him decide to do that? Did he want to teach or what?
Must have, I don't remember.
But he never did teach.
He went of his own accord.
Uh-huh.
When he finished high school, Rob Lee didn't say, Rob Lee used to say he wasn't going to send his children to college. And I don't reckon Garrett wanted to go. Garrett went 6 weeks and come back homesick. But Algernon went his whole 4 years to Appalachian. Algernon, Elizabeth, and Elijah all graduated from Appalachian.
They all taught?
Yes.
Did none of them want to come back and work on the farm?
They worked on the farm a few weeks in the summer. They didn't have a long vacation. I reckon they had. Did they have 3 months?
I don't know. I would imagine so.
Well, they come home anyway. When school was out, they'd always come home and stay till it opened again.
After you got the last one out of the house, what did y'all do then?
I don't know.
Remember just having children all your
Ben
life?
went to school and all, and yeah, he's a graduate of state. It was a long period of Elizabeth, Algernon, Elizabeth, Elijah. David just took a business course. Ben Jones went 4 years.
So none of them moved back in with you after they left, after they got through with college?
I don't think they did. They would spend the vacation here unless they had some work somewhere else to make something to go back to school on.
Tell me a little bit about your husband, about his life. What did he...
He was a farmer, and he loved it. And he was a little man. And I don't know. And he was a Presbyterian. I don't know what to tell you.
Was he a gentleman, a kind man?
Yes, he sure was. And he loved his children. And they sent, you see, nearly all of them went to 4-year college.
Yeah.
David just took a business course.
What was he like when they did wrong?
When what?
When the children did something wrong, what was he like then?
Had more patience than I did.
Yeah. Is he a happy person?
Yes. Really, he hadn't had a happy childhood because he didn't have any mother. He had a stepmother, and he said she was a good person, but she was a school teacher instead of a mother. And they thought a lot of her, and she lived here with us till she died. I don't know how many years. When she broke up housekeeping, she lived with us. And I wouldn't have known what she was his mother if somebody hadn't told me. I think he was about 6 years old when his daddy married the second time.
What happened to his first wife?
She had a stroke, had apoplexy.
Mm.
Said she was working with the flowers in her front yard. She had mounds around the front porch, and said she was working there and had a stroke. And she couldn't walk, but she crawled in the house. I don't know, the children were little, and she died right then.
Here at this house?
But
Here at this house?
in that room there. She was working in the front of the house, and she crawled in that room. They use that room every day for.
How many grandchildren you have?
How many I have?
Yeah.
You can count them. Garrett had 7. Algernon had 2. Elizabeth has 2. And Lydia has 4. Robert has 5. And David has 3, and Ben has 3.
Okay, it's 24.
24.
25.
20. I was under the impression it's 26.
It's 26, yeah, that's right. 26.
Can't tell you exactly.
You see them a lot?
Yes, I see all of them.
Everybody but the ones that live here, right?
All of them live somewhere in there. Well, they don't all live in the state. I have some in California, but they've all been here this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if they'll nearly all be here for the weekend for my 100th birthday.
What did you think when you were a young girl and somebody was 100 years old?
Never heard of anybody then.
Never knew anybody to be 100 then.
Never did hear. But my grandparents lived to be in the 80s.
What did you think about you? How long did you think you'd live?
I don't know as I ever thought anything about how long I'd live. My parents lived to be in the 70s. It looks to me like but Pa was 84. I'd have to look at my records to see. I forget.
You got everything written down somewhere?
Yeah. You see, I'm 90. I'll be 100 the 3rd of November.
Yeah, you have to write everything down to remember it all, don't you? If you had it to do over again, would you change anything about your life?
Well, there might be some things that I think I could do a little better than I did, but I think I would have married, and I'm real proud that I have a family, because I had one sister that had 2 boys, and my brother had 3, and that's all. The others, there's no other children in the family, and I think that I was so much better off than the ones that didn't have any. Because if I need anything, well, lots of times I don't even say anything about it if they find it out. And I found my refrigerator. I don't know where I went, but I come back and there's fresh milk and fresh bacon, breakfast bacon, and eggs. I don't know even who put them in there.
Taken care of you, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
They sure do. And I tell people don't have any. Sister Annie didn't have any children. Mary had 2 boys. She took care of them, I think. But they have turned out, of course she's dead, and one of them's a doctor and one of them's a lawyer. And I think they're all right.
Let's talk about a couple of things that have happened. Like, we talked about television a minute ago. What do you think about what do you think is the most important thing that's happened in your lifetime? I mean, you've seen.
You mean now everyday living?
Well, no, things that happened out there in the world. I mean, you've seen highways, cars, flight, airplanes. Remember the first airplane flight?
Oh yes.
What
The first airplane was flying, and I've forgotten where it was going, but it's going to pass over here so we could see it, and we didn't. And I went up to Draper. Sister Mary lived at Draper at that time, and she saw it. She said, huh, nothing to it no more than seeing a buzzard pass. And I don't, but that's been a long time ago, and I don't remember what yet was.
Yeah. There's been a lot happening up there, though. You know, we have people going up in space. We got people in space right now.
What?
We have people in space right now.
Uh-huh.
You know, they launched the shuttle the other day, and they're supposed to come back Monday.
I like around here very well. I don't believe I want to go up in space.
What do you think about that when you see that kind of stuff?
Think about what?
When you hear about something like that, and what, you know, you've seen a whole lot of things happen. What goes through your mind when you hear that?
Well, there were no cars, you know. A horse was the way we traveled when I was growing up. That we had trains, but there wasn't anywhere we wanted to go, especially on a train. I expect I was grown before I ever rode on a train, and well, I've been to Atlanta, and I've never been on a train very much yet.
Yeah.
After cars were invented by, I reckon we had the first car in 22.
You never drove a car, though, did you?
Never did drive a car.
You were in a wreck one time, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in a wreck bad. I was in a wreck. We turned over one time, and looks to me like yeah, I've been in 2 wrecks. One of them we were right badly shaken up, but the one that car turned over, I wasn't hurt at all. Wasn't anybody hurt. It didn't turn except just on its side, sort of spilled us. And the other one was a collision. Somebody hit us on the side. It hit right where I was sitting. But it didn't hurt me as much as it did my husband. Knocked him clear out of the car. He was the driver sitting by me, but it hit me instead of him. And ruined our car, tore it up. And there were, Miss Cora Harrison was with us, and Alice Blackwell, I believe, and put Cora in a hospital. And I believe Alice was there too, a day or two, but I didn't stay but a week. And weren't any of us very badly hurt. The car hit us on the side and knocked us, well, ruined our car, went to the junk pile.
You ever think about moving away?
No. I was born and raised where my daddy was born and raised, and lived there all my life, and he lived there all his life. And I've lived here most of the rest of my life. I lived on a farm between here and Reed for 2 years.
You ever thought about moving to a city?
No, sir.
What do you think about city life?
I don't want to live in town at all.
You feel pretty safe out here?
I never was in a city, except just like going to Atlanta or something like that. But I went to school in Reedsville.
Yeah.
And voted there. And I used to think if I had to live in town, I wouldn't mind living in Reedsville. I had lots of good friends there, but I don't have any. They're all dead.
Yeah, a person like you kind of outlives everybody, that don't they?
Well, of course, I've outlived all the grown folks that I knew when I was a child. And I lost my last sister this year.
What's it like being the only one left?
Well, if I didn't have a family, it would be pretty bad. Now, Sister Annie didn't have any children, and she lived to be almost 102.
People took care of her, though.
And she'd been a widow.
Her nieces and nephews took care of her.
Well, she had a nephew that took care of her. Bill Mitchell took care of her. And as far as money goes, he was well paid. But I think that everything was done for her. It could be.
What do you want people to remember about you? One day you're going to die. One day. Sometime.
Not going to be long.
I don't know. How old do you think you'll be when you die?
What?
How old do you think you'll be when you die?
I don't have any idea.
Yeah?
As far as I know, I have no disease.
Yeah?
of any kind.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And so I don't know how long I might live. My sister lived to be almost 102.
But every day you hear about people dying young,
Uh-huh.
and you know you still hanging on in there.
Well, all of my, I had two sisters. I had one sister lived in to get up in 70, and I believe that Florence was 90,
Mm-hmm.
and Annie was 100, going on 102,
Runs in your family, doesn't it?
and Sister Mary was 97.
Yeah.
But there were 9 of us, and several of them died young. My brother died when he was 44, and I had a sister died when she was 19. And
What do you want people to remember about you?
I don't know. I hope they won't remember bad things about me.
Well, what are some bad things you've done? You've never done anything bad, have you?
Well, I don't really, I knew it, or feel like I did, but I don't know what other folks thought.
What's religion like to you?
Huh?
What is religion to you?
It's everything.
Yeah.
You know. Isn't it to you?
Yeah. I just wonder, you know, when you are you real religious?
Huh?
Are you real religious?
Well, I don't know whether I do the things I should do or not, anything like that, but I sure do trust in the Lord.
What do you think he's
I
going to...
think maybe I could, work I might could do or could have done, but I did raise a great big family of children, and didn't any of them go astray. I reckon that's something to be mighty thankful for.
Yeah. What do you think heaven's going to be like?
What do I think heaven's going to be like? I don't know. Just imagine it's a perfectly beautiful, wonderful place, but I don't know what it's going to be like. Sure do hope I'm going there.
I don't think you'll miss it. You'll probably get there.
I sure hope I will. And you too.
Yeah. How about being 100 years old? Do you feel any different now than when you were young? When you were younger?
Well, I reckon you do in a whole lot of ways. I can't do much now for anybody, not even myself. I do fix supper for David every day, and I fix dinner for him right often. He fixes his own breakfast, but I thought Miss Booker fixed for him, but I found out she didn't. See, she's in his house with him.
Yeah. Do you think that is life important enough that if you were in bad health, would you still want to be living?
No, I wouldn't want to be in health that somebody had to wait on me, take care of me.
Mm.
I think it's real that now that how old am I? I'll be 100 years old the 3rd of November.
Well, I reckon you're 99.
Well, see, 3rd of November is most year, and I'll be 100 years old. And so far, I give David supper.
Yeah.
Fix supper for David and other meals if he's at home. He fixes his own breakfast.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he does about lunch.
Oh, he eats lunch. He eats lunch at work.
I think he has a snack, or he eats, and he ain't full anyway. What are you seeing?
You got great-grandchildren, don't you? How many great-grandchildren? Do you know how many?
Let me see. Garrett has... June has 2.
Well, you got a lot
I
of them.
expect Garrett has mine near a dozen.
Yeah.
And don't anybody else have. Elizabeth,
David's got grandchildren.
Algernon has he has 2 boys, let me see. He has 2 grandchildren, and Elizabeth has 1.
What do you think great-grandchildren, I mean, you know, think about this. You could conceivably, okay, you were born in 1889, and you got children that have grandchildren,
Yes.
and those children are going to remember you, those grandchildren, great-grandchildren that you've got right now, are
Some
going
of
to,
them will.
they're going to remember you in way up in the year 2000. What if some of them live to be 100 years old, like my children? What if they live to be 100? They'll remember you to the year 2080. That's amazing, isn't it? That would be almost 200 years.
Well, I remember in the 1890s,
Yeah.
you know, I reckon I was born in 1889.
Yeah. Well, what did people do? I mean, you remember people who were born in what year? 1800? Did you know some? Did you know any? You remember when you were a little girl? There were people who were 90, right?
I don't know whether I remember when people were 90 or not. I thought my grandparents were real old, but I
Yeah.
don't think they were more than.
Okay. Well, let's say they were in their 80s, so they remember
No,
being.
they were not in the 80s.
You remember people who were born in 1820s, in the 1820s and 1830s.
Yes, I reckon my grandparents
Yeah.
were.
So, and now this is the 1980s, actually almost 1990. So it's been 160 years of people that you actually remember. I mean, you remember people who were born as early as 1820.
I remember my grandparents, rather my Grandpa Jones and a step-grandmother.
Yeah.
I didn't know what she was my grandmother. Somebody, my own grandma, Garrett, told me that Grandma Jones wasn't my grandma. Says, she's your step-grandma. I'm all the grandma you got. And Mama didn't like it, because Grandma Nanny was Mama's stepmother, and she had never told us that she wasn't her mother. Mama's mother died when she was a little girl, and her stepmother had raised her. And she had just told us that she was our grandma. And Grandma Garrett, I think, was a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
And she told me one time that said, Grandma Nanny is not your grandma. I'm all the grandma you've got.
Oh boy. Who were some of your favorite presidents? Who was president when you were born?
President McKinley is the first one I remember. I don't know who was president when I was born, but I remember when President McKinley was assassinated.
What was that like?
Well, it was real startling, and I felt awful bad about it. And of course, I just knew as a president of the United States, I didn't know much.
How'd you find out that he was assassinated?
I don't know what, I reckon it was in the Atlanta Constitution.
Did your family all gather around the newspaper when it came
I
out?
reckon that's the way we learned it.
Yeah. How about
We had, the country post office was in our dining room. Matrimony. You ever heard of matrimony?
Mm-hmm.
I grew up on Matrimony Creek.
And the post office was in your dining room?
Uh-huh.
So
Aunt Susie, Paul's sister, was postmistress.
So she got the mail up for everybody, and they came to your house to get the mail?
They come to the dining room to get it. The man come from Price with on a mule with a mail bag. You've seen saddlebags, and the mail bag was sort of like the saddlebag, and the post office was Matrimony. And he come from Price down to our house, and I said the post office was in the dining room, and Aunt Susie was postmistress. It was Matrimony. I reckon Matrimony. They still have Matrimony Creek, but otherwise I reckon Matrimony's dead.
How did it get to be known as Matrimony Creek?
Said a couple were on the way to get married, and when they got to the creek, the creek had a freshet, and the creek was up, and they couldn't get across, and the preacher was on the other side. And said he wrapped up they wrapped up the license in a bundle of rock and threw them across the creek, and the preacher performed the ceremony on one side of the creek and the couple on the other.
Think that's a true story?
I guess it's true. I've heard it all my life, and it's been Matrimony Creek all my life.
Yeah. What do you remember about America when you were younger?
I don't remember much. I remember when President McKinley was assassinated.
Remember President Roosevelt?
Oh, yes.
What did people think of him?
I don't remember that. My husband wasn't a bit of a politician. My daddy was a Democrat from head to foot, and he took an interest in things, but Robert Lee didn't. Robert Lee voted, that's all.
Now you had a relative who was in the Senate up in Virginia for a right long time.
42 years.
42 years.
Uh-huh.
Who was that?
Uncle Allen Garrett,
Mm.
Pa's brother.
And he was in the Virginia State House with the Senate.
Uh-huh.